Bar Rescue. You know the show, where bar expert Jon Taffer shows up to a rundown bar, does his little sting operation where he has people go into the restaurant to try the food, and he records all of the cooks in the kitchen and the waiters and waitresses at the same time to make sure that the food is being handled safely and the customers are being treated fairly. The same guy that will shut down the whole business if something is done improperly.
I'll fire your ass in front of your brothers. That's the deal. Who the you talking to? I'm talking to you.
Now, does this guy seem like the guy you would turn to if your marriage was, I don't know, for some reason on the brink of failing? Like, forget a marriage counselor, forget listening to your partner's needs and wants, and forget talking to each other. Instead, throw all that out the window, right into the show, and Jon Taffer, the bar expert, will give you marriage advice. Now, this might sound like something unreal. Like, haha, Bills, a good one. We all know Jon Taffer just shuts down bars. He wouldn't stick his nose in marriage problems. But what would you do if I told you that this show called Marriage Rescue does exist, and Jon Taffer does in fact host it? With a 5 out of 10 on IMDb, the show is described as, fresh from his success on the series Bar Rescue, Jon Taffer turns his attention toward couples on the verge of splitting up and uses his unorthodox approach to help them mend their relationship. He applies similar tactics to a diverse group of spouses, ranging from newlyweds to couples who have been together for decades. To allow the couples to escape any distractions from the daily grind of their lives, Taffer transports them to a 5-star beach resort in the Caribbean to put them through a series of tests. After the tests, couples either leave the show together or opt to part ways. Now, if you thought Jon Taffer was too invasive on Bar Rescue with some of the people who were on the show, just imagine him being like that with a marriage in this show. This show only ran for one season in 2019. It was killed with terrible reviews that called out Jon's own marital issues from the past. But I'll get to the reviews in just a moment. But first, I wanted to talk about the formula of the show. Now, it's pretty much like any standard relationship show, or if we're comparing it to Bar Rescue, it's pretty much the same exact thing. We get to meet the people involved and see how they act around each other. We get some of their backstory on their relationship at home and why they are on the show in the first place. But I kid you not, I almost spit out my drink when I heard Jon Taffer say that he was going to put the couples through a relationship stress test. You know, like what he would do for failing dive bars. I'm sure that will work out for the couples involved, and it won't further ruin their relationship at all. This test really isn't that great. The episode that stood out to me the most was the second episode. During the episode, Jon makes this couple kayak together. This lasted about 2 minutes before the wife ended up jumping out of the boat and swam to shore. This was because Jon wanted the husband to take the lead in their marriage, but it ended up not working out, and it ended in a fight. Jon eventually speaks to the wife and tells her that she's a lot like Jon, where they focus too much on the business and want to be the alphas in the relationships. This to me was kind of odd because it makes it seem like the husband was the one in the wrong because he couldn't take charge in his marriage, and it made it seem like the husband was weak. But in reality, he was just dealing with his wife, who was an alpha who wanted things done her way, and over time he just stopped trying. They're both in the wrong for sure, but it seemed like this part of the episode was more focused on the husband becoming the leader instead of the wife taking a step back and allowing him to become the leader. Jon was a lot nicer to this couple opposed to the second couple that was on this episode. The other couple were pretty terrible, not so much the wife, but more so the husband. The husband kept threatening a divorce on the wife, but would never go through with it, and the wife would do whatever he'd say and do because she loved him. I thought it was pretty funny because Jon was spying on this couple with the same exact camera and setup that he uses for Bar Rescue. It looked like he was just a couple feet over. I don't know, it was strange. And he actually ends up going to them and introducing himself to them after he saw the husband being a jerk to the wife. The husband is already kind of standoffish just because of like the whole interaction that he already had with his wife. She was saying that she just loved being there with her husband, and her husband says something like, "Oh, well, if you don't like the food, let me have it." And then she was just saying that she loved her husband, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, what did they put in the food? They must have like put something in the food. Give me what they give you." So he's pretty much acting like he didn't love her or didn't care about her. This standoffishness from the husband would only get worse over time. For the test, they go on like a clay or pottery class, and during it, the wife actually gets happy because the husband made her laugh and showed her a small, and I mean very, very like the smallest amount of love that someone could show someone else. After this, the wife asks if he still wants to get a divorce, and he pretty much just brushes it off and says like, oh yeah, we're having fun now, don't bring this up. And pretty much to focus on the day and how they're having fun and it's the moment, why are you gonna bring this up? And obviously Jon's like staring at him in the camera and he's like watching what he says. So then he comes in and then he asks the wife to leave so him and the husband can have like a personal conversation about what he wants to do. And he talks to the husband and Jon asks him about the divorce, and the husband still wants to leave the wife. He still wants to have the divorce. And Jon pretty much says that he has to man up and tell his wife, instead of playing games with her emotions and making her seem like he wants to be in the relationship when he actually doesn't. So he calls the wife back in and Jon tells her that the husband still wants a divorce. This is after the husband didn't want to directly tell her that he wanted a divorce. He said something like, oh yeah, he didn't want to hurt her. Like he wants a divorce, but he doesn't want to hurt her feelings, which I can understand, but this is not good. If you're ever in a situation where you want to like leave somebody, don't just string them along. Just tell them that you don't want to be there anymore. This is a lot better than this situation. But after that, it kind of gets quiet and awkward, and Jon ends up leaving because he just like literally made it super awkward after having like a really good day. But after he leaves, the husband does say that he wants to work things out and work everything out and like come to a terms where they can try to be like civil and love each other. But I think it's just because like Jon put him on blast. Now, one of the last interactions Jon has with this couple is when they sit down to eat some food, and it's kind of set up like how it is on Bar Rescue when Jon talks to the owners about their personal struggles. But this interaction leads to a screaming match between Jon and the husband, with the husband ultimately telling Jon not to tell him what he should and should not say and do in his marriage, and with his wife. This screaming match went on for a few uncomfortable minutes. Now, I guess at the end of the show, the couples are supposed to meet Jon at a beach with a set of promises that they made for each other and what they're going to stick to once they leave the resort. But the couple that Jon just got into a screaming match with ended up leaving the show without meeting Jon at the beach. Jon says that it's because the husband actually doesn't want the divorce from the wife, but he wants to keep putting fear in her so that she will be subservient to him. Which honestly could be true. I just think that they left because it was a bad argument and it's tough to get involved in a marriage or family problems if you're an outsider looking in. All in all, it wasn't a terrible episode. I can't say it was the worst thing that I've ever watched. I thought it had some of the occasional drama that was on Bar Rescue, but I felt like that ultimately damaged the show's reputation as well. I'll get into that in a minute. Some of the reviews on IMDb all mention how the show is very formulaic and how viewers will know what happens before it even does. One comment that stood out to me was one that read, "A divorced guy who spends all his time on the road, visiting horrible dive bars, wants to give marital advice. A guy who goes from town to town fixing dirty dive bars that are full of vermin and should be bulldozed, rescues marriages. A guy who only knows how to yell and degrade people in order to build them up, helps couples find love again. Jon Taffer can be entertaining to watch as he fights with drunks in dirty bars, but that is a far cry from family counseling. Jon Taffer should stick to what he knows best, being verbally abusive to nasty drunks." Oh yeah, a fact that I forgot to mention is that Jon Taffer did get a divorce. And at first I didn't think he did because I looked it up before this video, and everywhere that I found it said that he was never divorced and there was nothing on it. But in this episode of the show, he actually says that he got divorced 25 years ago. Now, I'm not sure if it's to the wife that he's already married to now and he just remarried her over time. That would make sense, but yeah. I just think it's pretty crazy how Jon can tell people everything wrong with their relationship, even though he himself couldn't stay married at one point in his life. Again, this is on the basis that he didn't marry his ex-wife again, but yeah. I know things do change, and he probably figured out what he did wrong with his first wife, but I'm sure he didn't learn by being screamed at by some random person he just met. Now, that brings me to the next issue with this whole entire show. Some of these couples have been together for years, and Jon is just now meeting them for the very first time. And he doesn't know anything about the relationship or what they've been through throughout the years. It can sometimes take years for a marriage counselor to get to the bottom of things, like between a relationship, but Jon thinks he can fix a marriage in just 6 days without marriage counseling or therapy, and without having a background in that field as well. This has to be the biggest issue with the show as a whole. It's easy to figure out what's wrong with a bar during one night in a stress test, but a marriage is far more complicated, and there could be years and years and years of problems, and that is where Jon fails with thinking he can figure out what's wrong with their entire relationship in just a few hours. The show altogether was not well received. Viewers probably felt very uncomfortable watching Jon Taffer scream at couples to fix their relationship. That aggressive approach towards bars and their owners could work, and does work about 75% of the time. But this doesn't work for a failing marriage. Like, put yourself in these people's shoes. Imagine you're failing at something, and instead of someone trying to help you out in a positive way, you are just there getting screamed at and sworn at and belittled the whole entire time. This doesn't help out at all, and in fact may hurt the relationship way more than help it. You see, with a marriage counselor, you're in a controlled environment where both of you know that it's a safe space to talk to each other about your problems and things that you want to get off your chest. But this is not a controlled environment, and if you have someone yelling at you at the same time that your wife may be yelling at you, then it could feel like you're being ganged up on, and it could make the relationship a lot worse. And if you are struggling with confidence issues, then being yelled at and belittled could also affect you way more than anything else. You see, marriages aren't always or are never black and white. They are more complex. There could be childhood trauma, possible cheating, death in the family, abuse, verbally or physically or even mentally, and way more. This is why the show failed. Looking at a relationship at surface level and trying to give advice on how to fix it is the worst thing that you could possibly do. I think Paramount knew this, and that's why they canceled the next season. Ultimately, people felt like the show caused more of a rift between the couples that either left early or failed than helping them come closer. I feel like the show shouldn't be about win or lose. It should be about ways the couples can come closer together. If I was a writer or producer or even director, I would have hired a therapist to help the couples with their problems, as well as doing these fun tests to get them away from the normal routine or environment. This would be the first step. I would have also liked to see the show have the couple on longer than a week, maybe 1 week of therapy and 1 week of the test to see how far the couples have come. It just feels like the show was rushed, and because people loved how Jon was towards bar owners, maybe whoever greenlit the show thought that good trait that was often the subplot on Bar Rescue would translate over to a wider audience. But it just didn't age well. Again, the show focused on drama and quick fixes, but that was a big problem because anyone who is willing to put their marital problems on blast should have gotten the help that they were looking for, not just filmed for shock value. This is one of the biggest reasons why the show was canceled ultimately. Again, this show was entertaining to some, but for the majority of people, it was just kind of awkward and uncomfortable to watch, especially if you are going through the same marital issues at home. This show isn't as bad as some of the other shows that I'll be covering in the next couple of videos, so let me know other shows that I need to make a video on in the comments down below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with future uploads, and thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.